Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation. I am Molly Spalding and today we are going to look at the health of Australian children. I will talk to you about the diseases and conditions that are having such a big impact on children, as well as the benefits of physical activity for children and what Australian schools can do to improve children's health. I just want to start off by saying that the World Health Organization's definition of health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. This is important to keep in mind throughout the presentation, as we will look at all aspects of children's health. The National Health Priority Areas are diseases and conditions chosen by the Australian Government as being the most significant contributors to the burden of illness and injury in the Australian community. There are 9 NHPAs. Obesity, injury prevention and control, and mental illness are 3 of these priority health issues that have a large impact on the health of Australian children. Being overweight or obese means that you have abnormal or excessive body fat accumulation. Body mass index or BMI is used to classify people's weight status in relation to their height. It is calculated by dividing your weight in kilograms by the square of your height in metres. The World Health Organization defines obesity as having a BMI over 30. 4.7 million Australians were obese in a 2011-2012 study. In this study, it was found that 25% of children aged 2 to 17 were overweight or obese. Obesity rates have not decreased and are still a lot higher for Indigenous people. This is perhaps due to their dietary changes over a long period of time. Obesity can be caused by a lack of nutritional understanding and guidance, a lack of ability to cope with emotions and personal issues, loneliness, insecurity, or social alienation. It is a health issue that is highly important to address as it has such a large impact on Australian children. It is sad that 1/4 of Australian children are not having the same quality of life due to having excess fat stored on their bodies. Obesity can lead to a lack of participation in social and physical activities, low self-esteem, difficulty with physical functioning, low quality of life, and other health issues such as diabetes. Injury prevention is so important for us to think about because it contributes so highly to mortality and morbidity rates for young people. Injury, which includes accidents, poisoning and violence, is the major cause of death for 0 to 15-year-olds. Motor vehicle accidents are still the leading cause of injury in childhood. However, rates of motor vehicle accidents, poisonings and drownings have decreased over recent years. Public awareness through health promotion and changes in public policy have contributed to this decrease. 3.4% more injuries of children of a primary school age were children of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander background. Falls, drownings and transport accidents that meant hospitalisation of children aged 5 to 14 years old are at a higher level in comparison to the total population. However, injuries due to transport accidents double and poisoning rates triple after this age group. Therefore, learning about poisons and road safety is very important in childhood in order to prevent injury due to these causes later in life. Injury places a high demand on hospitals, can cause a lack of physical function or death, and can place an emotional and financial burden on the individual and the family. A mental illness is a health problem that significantly affects how a person feels, thinks, behaves and interacts with other people. The Australian Youth Mental Health Report of 2014 found that from those surveyed, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people were 11% more likely to suffer from a mental illness. The second Australian Health Survey of Mental Health among young people found that 13.9% of young people suffered a mental illness in the 12 months prior to the survey, and that ADHD, anxiety disorder and depression were found to be the most common mental disorders of children and adolescents. Some of the key risk factors for mental health problems in young people include low self-esteem, bullying, a family breakdown and abuse. Anything that causes stress and worry for children at a high level can be a risk factor of mental illness. Mental illness can lead to children not wanting to engage in social activities, academic struggles, eating disorders, obesity, and suicide. I think we often associate adults with mental illness, but 1 in 8 Australian children are suffering, so we must realise how important it is to help your children develop coping skills and a positive self-esteem, because it does affect children too. Now we are just going to look at how physical activity and sport can contribute to better health for Australian children. The 2011-2012 Australian Health Survey indicated that only 1/3 of children undertook the recommended 60 minutes of physical activity per day. It also found that 2 out of 3 children exceeded the recommendation of 2 hours of screen-based activity per day. Physical activity is so important in benefiting a child emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and socially. Physical inactivity is a risk factor for conditions and illnesses such as mental illness, obesity, musculoskeletal and cardiovascular diseases. By participating in the recommended amounts of physical activity, the risk factors of disease, illness and injury are prevented, such as musculoskeletal weakness, which could lead to an injury. The World Health Organization identifies physical inactivity as the 4th leading risk factor for global mortality. A 2-year study of Australian primary school students found that physical activity had a direct effect in the prevention of childhood obesity. Physical inactivity can lead to weight gain, especially when it is replaced with watching TV or playing on game devices. A study in America found that children were replacing physical activity with watching TV, meaning they were having too much screen time and not enough activity. They were also more likely to consume unhealthy snack foods when they watched TV, which contributed to their weight gain. Physical activity and sport gives opportunities for children to build their relationships with others and develop social skills. This was proven in a study that found that too much screen time and a lack of physical activity can lead to psychosocial issues later in life. Physical activity and sport are also important for your child's mental health, as it can give your children opportunities to make new friends, as well as increase their sense of self-worth in being part of a team and having achievements. Physical activity can prevent the risk factors of mental illness, such as a negative body image and low self-esteem. Another study aimed to synthesize the literature from 1947 to 2009 on the effects of physical activity on cognitive ability and academic achievement. It found that primary school children who participated in physical activity had higher cognitive function and academic achievement. This was especially due to the fact that researchers believe children acquire certain cognitive skills through play, which was relevant to this age group. I think sometimes the message can be sent to children that participating in physical activity relates to thinness. Physical activity, in fact, should be encouraged as something that is fun, social, makes them feel good, and happens to keep their bodies healthy as well. It's really important for children to have physical activity and sport as a positive and regular part of their lives, so that healthy habits are developed for the future. Now I will talk about what schools can do to better the health of their students. Schools should aim to allow children to participate in the recommended 60 minutes of physical activity. There is not enough time in PDHPE classes. Therefore, schools need to take measures to ensure children are meeting these recommendations. This could be done by creating after-school sport programs once a week, or by teachers running big games of sport at school lunchtime. One study in America found that by taking away sport equipment at school break times, it led to a huge decrease in physical activity. By providing sport equipment to students participation in physical activity will increase. I think it is most beneficial for schools to continue to add to their sport equipment, as the more variety available, the more children will be excited to participate in some form of game at lunch or recess. A South Australian study has shown that canteens find it difficult to replace their unhealthy food with healthy food, as it reduces the profit and it is more time-consuming when there is already a lack of volunteers. To encourage school canteens to be healthier when considering these issues, students could be more involved and take some responsibility. For example, the Student Council could choose a couple of menu items, such as salads, that could be offered a few days a week. The students could make these items on these days. Children would be learning about healthy food preparation and be taking responsibility for their and their peers' health. Kids Matter is an Australian organisation that works with schools to improve children's mental health through education of students, parents and teachers, and by building a supportive environment. Their final report found that children who were identified as being in the abnormal range of mental health had reductions in emotional symptoms, conduct problems, peer problems and hyperactivity. This shows what an impact a holistic approach to mental health can have, especially by engaging the school and the parents. To tackle the high injury levels of children, schools should incorporate decision-making activities into lessons, rather than just telling students what to do and what not to do to keep themselves safe. For example, in a road safety lesson at school, teachers could use an object to represent a car and place it at one end of the oval. Students could be asked to stand where they think it would be safe to cross the road if the car was coming. Rather than an adult thinking for them, a child has the opportunity to practice their skills in making safe decisions and thinking for themselves. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and I hope that you have a better understanding of children's health today. Just always remember to be a role model to your child. Give them access to plenty of healthy food. Give them opportunities and show them how fun participating in physical activity is. Give them encouragement, support and trust to build their self-esteem and a supportive environment. And do what you can to support the health lessons that children learn at school.